Ladies, we are celebrating you. March is, of course, Women's History Month, and every year we learn more and more about the contributions of women.
Exactly. Even fathers. You're girl dads now. But women, they're making huge strides, and they're not just on the sideline. Welcome to commUNITY. I'm Claudine Ewing.
And I'm Pete Gallivan. Well, we are going to be highlighting women this month. There are too many great women out there to show, but we're going to do our best in introducing you to a lot of them.
These are the faces of women, women who deserve to be celebrated. They are lawmakers, commissioners, lawyers, business owners. They are mothers and daughters. Maybe she's your neighbor. And this woman is now Vice President of the United States of America. Sororities continue to shine the light on women doing well while helping others. Delta Sigma Theta.
It's good to see women that look like me that serve in these key roles because I know that dream is possible. In anything that we do, you know, it's the relationship. It's the opportunity to communicate. It's the opportunity to soar, to dream the impossible. It is the opportunity to build and to understand that I may not be in that exact seat today or tomorrow, but at some point I can be.
Alpha Kappa Alpha.
A member of my sorority is like now the first vice president, first Black female vice president. It's just impressive just being leaders, you know. Sisterhood. One of our main principles within our sorority is promoting sisterhood, unity, friendship, you know, being of service to all mankind. I'm a mechanical engineering student, and one of the main women that impacted me and encouraged me to become a woman of STEM is Mae Jemison, the first Black female astronaut. Women run the world. We are the reason why everyone is here. So I personally feel like we shouldn't have a month. I feel like we should be celebrated year-wide because we are strong, resilient, and again, just making an impact in the world.
We are celebrating Women's History Month, but we also are talking about some tough issues too.
That's right. That tough issue is human trafficking, sex trafficking. It is real. We should not ignore it. We should talk about it. And that's why we are at the Free Them Center.
A wall of courage. These are stories of women who could have died, but they decided to fight. They decided to allow us to give them love. This is one of the places, the only places in Western New York that offers free counseling, STEM services, and a lot of different other programs for women who are victims of human trafficking and for at-risk populations of girls who are ages 7 to 17. Everything about the Freedom Center is always about overcoming. We do not call the women that have been victims of human trafficking survivors. We say that they come in as victims, they're transformed into survivors, but by the time they leave, they're overcomers. These hands right here are drawn by one of our overcomers of human trafficking. One of the hardest parts of our job is to let people know or to convince people that human trafficking doesn't just happen overseas, but happens right here in our community. A lot of other women and girls can come in here, they can make their own t-shirts, so we have people to teach them how to do it, and we will sell all that in our store, and they get all the money. Our real men don't buy women, and we stand on the fact that we buy things and not humans. We've also partnered with other organizations that are going to come in here and teach our women and girls how to build computers, how to build jewelry, basically giving them very marketable skills, because our goal is that they become contributing and functioning members of society. They learn how to do website design, graphic design, editing for photos and videography. Some may want to start YouTube channels, so we have tons of camera equipment. We call this our gifting room. We get them makeup, sanitary supplies, toilet paper. I'm only the third generation not born on a slave plantation. So if human trafficking is nothing more than slavery, this fight to end it is very personal for me. As a Black woman, I'm still seeing the effects and the trauma that slavery caused, not just through my family, but through millions of other people who look like me. It's the small victories that build resilience, that protect hope, that allow people to reach their goals and maximize their full potential in Earth. I am doing a walk. It's going to be 902 miles on the Underground Railroad. We're going to leave May 3rd, and we're going to get to Buffalo June 19th. We're going to get to Buffalo, New York on Juneteenth, because as a modern-day abolitionist, My job is to give every single victim of human trafficking, no matter their sex, no matter their type, their race, their own day of freedom. So the Juneteenth represents a day of freedom. Our goal is to raise awareness and to raise money. Why? Because we want to raise $1 million so that we can build the nation's largest restoration home for human trafficking victims right here in Western New York.
You know, we're talking about women, but this is also a men's issue. That's why they have launched a social media campaign called 100 Men Committed to Free Them. You can just check out their webpage for more information.
Right. You're going to hear much more from Kelly Diane Galloway on commUNITY over the next couple of months.
And now on commUNITY, medicine comes face to face with activism. As if being a fourth-year medical student is not difficult enough, add a pandemic and a year of social unrest. It's amazing that any student could hold it together.
It was unnerving to me that it was business as usual, it felt like. And I felt isolated, I felt concerned, I wanted to do more.
But UB's Carol Collier is not any student.
And it gave people permission to be boldly divisive. And that wasn't, like, in the medical school wasn't immune to that.
Collier says it went beyond a feeling of wanting to do something about it. She needed to. She had just finished grueling rounds of interviews that determined where she'll train as a surgery resident, and she was starting her final semester of medical school.
I felt like no one was speaking about it. I was like, how do we not talk about this or even acknowledge it? Or, you know, we're going to be physicians, and like the world is on fire right now, and we're just going to be talking about microbiology. Like, we got to do something.
So she added to the grind work on a new UB summer program for underrepresented students and organized an anti-racism lecture program featuring activist and scholar Cornel West.
I just got pulled in many different directions and had a bit of tenacity and just pure passion that kept me going.
Having grown up with working-class parents in a blue-collar section of Philadelphia, she feels an obligation to serve and values the perspective she brings to the table.
And that hit me really differently. We talk about health disparities, and it's great to talk about them in theory. And it is a favorite topic this year for people to talk about in theory. But when you are living in a world where two of your close friends have parents who have passed, your own parent is, 4 or 5 of her coworkers have had it. One person had a heart attack in her arms. It's a level of trauma and a level of repeated trauma that I think minority populations live with that we don't speak about.
So in addition to all of that, she started a new company and brand during the pandemic.
They're like, of course, Carol's doing this and that and this and this, because that's just been who I have shown myself to be since day one.
In early March, she launched TwiceAsHardApparel.com, her line of T-shirts, hooded sweatshirts, hats, and mugs branded with powerful statements about medicine and activism.
For me, with what I want to do with Twice as Hard, I would love to, this brand is like ready to go in perpetuity. Like, I can't wait to always have this part of me, and I love it, and I hope it grows and gets bigger.
But she wants to make one thing clear. She hasn't taken her eye off the prize.
I think that there's a part of me that is starting to see some entrepreneurial sides, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a surgeon first. I'm going to make sure I secure that, because that's always what I wanted to do with my life. But I'm just starting to see the world open up as I get closer and closer to becoming a doctor. And I'm like, I could do that too once I'm done.
Coming up on commUNITY, the sounds of Ani. If you haven't heard her voice and message, you'll want to.
That's why we got tears in our eyes, with our fists in the air, screaming out as we...
You know, when it comes to the news, you hear a lot of names a lot, but this is one you hear, but you don't always hear from.
That's right. This time, her name is Ani when it comes to music. Let's listen to her and learn about her.
Every sunset and every sunrise.
Born and raised in Buffalo,
I started singing when I was 6 years old in my church choir. And I was only listening and singing gospel music until recently. I've always written poetry and I've always wrote songs, but I never recorded them. And so in 2019, I recorded my songs.
you know, people know you as the wife of Darius Pridgeon, Pastor Darius Pridgeon, Common Council President Pridgeon, but you are your own individual.
Yes. I joke and say, you know, Darius is definitely more of the Martin Luther, and I have a little bit of the Malcolm tendencies.
But her voice, her music, her songs.
I see me in you.
And the first song that I had ever recorded was for my wedding. And I wrote a song for our first dance, and Darius had no idea. And when it was time for us to do our first dance, we're dancing, and then I kind of whispered, like, that's me singing. And he was like, what? Oh my goodness. And so that song is called Destiny, and it's on iTunes and SoundCloud as well.
It's right into our destiny. One step, two steps, I follow your lead. Wherever you are, that's where I'll be.
I come from a musical family. My uncle is Jerry Livingston. He's very known around the community. I took songs that I had written years ago, love songs, most of them are, and I went into the studio and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put a project out. My project is called Catharsis Volume 1.
Why that name, Catharsis?
Catharsis means to express yourself through art, particularly music. And when I write or sing, I feel so much better. And I've heard people say to me when they heard me sing or they've listened to my music that I made them feel better or that my song helped them to heal. And that's my goal.
First things first, let me acknowledge that you'll always come first.
Then this happened in 2020.
I wrote the song We Will Breathe.
You blessed us with these sons, and we wanna know how we can keep them safe when they hate it, cause they're round. Now we stuck between our anger and our wisdom, trying to play it smart, but for so long they haven't listened.
And as a mother of two brown boys, I had all of these emotions that I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. And I just remember I sat in my husband's office and I started crying. And I was like, I don't know. And he said, write about it, write a song about it. And I came back an hour later with a song.
Same situation, we jumping off the edge cause we lost our patience, tired of singing. We shall overcome.
Lyrics to that song was a lot of my frustration, but being in my generation, I'm in between my grandmother's generation, who is more quiet, more careful, and in between the generation after me, who is very, very loud. And so I'm stuck between, one of the lyrics says, I'm stuck between my anger and my wisdom.
We got tears in our eyes, with our fists in the air, screaming loud as we can, and you gon' hear no justice, no peace.
Why is it important that we hear voices like yours, and why is it that songs like that need to be heard?
It's important for us to be able to know that we're not in this alone and we're not the only ones feeling this way. And so I think music is one of those tools to just bring us together.
She plans to keep writing songs for the times, so stay tuned. But for now, a little freestyle.
Who would have known that I'd get an interview on Channel 2? I enjoy talking to you.
When it comes to weather, there are so many firsts, and there was a first right here in Western New York. Pete, you showcased her a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and she got her start right here at Channel 2. An amazing woman named BaconBersey who paved new ground for a whole new generation of meteorologists. When we talk about the difference makers in history, the innovators, the pioneers, one constant exists: hard work. And that certainly was the case with groundbreaking meteorologist June BaconBersey.
I first learned of her legacy at a weather conference in Huntsville, Alabama.
Our own Elise Smith says that BaconBersey's legacy continues to motivate her today.
And when I found out that June worked here at Channel 2 in this building, I was surprised, but excited. Just to have that ever so distant connection to her legacy, one that inspires me as a young woman in this industry, makes me proud to be here.
BaconBersey's daughter said one of the greatest lessons she learned from her mother was the importance of preparedness.
Being prepared for opportunities is part of the reason why she worked as hard as she did.
June BaconBersey was the first black woman to earn a degree in meteorology from the University of Kansas in 1954. She went on to earn her master's at UCLA and went on to work for the Atomic Energy Commission and the National Weather Service.
As I watched her trajectory at the Atomic Energy Commission, at the National Weather Service, I saw her go to school at night to study journalism. As I said, she had prepared for this opportunity, and when the opportunity for WGR came, it was an opportunity as a reporter, not as a meteorologist on the air.
She made her mark as a reporter initially, covering the Attica prison uprising of '71, her first national television exposure. But meteorology was her true passion, and she finally got her big break in 1971 with one of the craziest events in Buffalo broadcasting history. The main weather anchor for Channel 2 at the time, Frank Benny, robbed a bank to feed a gambling addiction. Although Benny was found to be not guilty due to temporary insanity brought on by extreme stress, management needed to find someone to take the reins of the weather department.
I knew that my mom had worked hard to be a television meteorologist and had not gotten the opportunity yet, but she was certainly prepared to raise her hand and negotiate, which is what she did for that position.
In 1972, BaconBersey was awarded the American Meteorological Society's Seal of Approval for Excellence in Television Weathercasting, the first woman and the first African American to ever achieve that distinction. And after 4 years at NBC, she spent the next decade and a half working for the National Weather Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency.
You've seen her face. You likely know her name. We'll call this a homecoming. She's big time and from Buffalo. My conversation with model Beverly Johnson up next on commUNITY. Credit one Buffalo woman for being curious and creative. An Instagram post with plant pots with messages that have a meaning took off. Now, in just a few months, she's generated revenue in the six figures, and she's still rolling. Meet V. Bolden.
I was brainstorming on my notepad, and I would say within an hour, I was just brainstorming names like, okay, this might, turn into something. We'll see. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. And I was like, we're gonna root it in black. That's perfect because it's a black pot. You got your plants, etc. So within 24 hours, I set up shop on through Shopify. And we did like $1,000 in sales our first 24 hours. We create conversational, inspirational plant pots and stationery surrounding our African American and overall Black history of a proud Black plant parent. We have our great foremothers and great forefathers pots, which features historical icons such as Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Fannie Lou Hamer, Ida B. Wells. Protect Black women. It will definitely spark conversations and stand out. It's simple, but it's fancy and it's provocative at the same time. Before this business, I was an at-home student, at-home wife. Thanks to the quarantine, I began to take an interest in plants. So I'm not a plant expert. I can keep some plants alive, but I just really wanted to, when you go out and you buy plant pots, a lot of them are the same. We are very intentional about the pots being Black and being minimalist so that it is made plain and clear. We're almost to $250,000 in revenue under a year.
Well, you've seen her in movies, on TV, on magazine covers, and it all started right here in the Queen City.
Her name is Beverly Johnson. Let's hear from her.
I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. And we were very fortunate. We had a home. My father was a steel laborer. My mother was a nurse. I went to school, 74 elementary school. My whole family was about academics. And I loved to make the honor roll at Bennett. I was an athlete, and I was a lifeguard at Beaver Island. You know, I worked at the YMCA teaching swimming. You know how many people I taught to swim? I mean, I'll be walking down the street in Buffalo and they go, Beverly, Beverly, Beverly. I said, oh, they know because I'm a model. They said, you taught me how to swim. One of my biggest accomplishments is teaching so many people how to swim in Buffalo, New York.
While studying at Northeastern University, some students put the bug in her ear to try modeling.
They literally picked up the magazine and showed me a girl, a blonde girl with her hands on her hips. She said, and they make $75 an hour. I was like, for standing there with your hands on your hip? I said, my father makes $75 a week. My mother went against my father's wishes. We went to New York. And my first job was Glamour and Vogue magazine. And the rest is history. It's a defining moment in my life to be the first Black woman on the cover of American Vogue in August 1974. Every model's dream is to be on the cover of American Vogue. That's our Oscar. That's our gold medal. That was what everyone was saying you'll never get. I didn't really understand at the time that it was because I was Black. All I knew was that I needed that Vogue cover to become the top model in the world. There were more Black models back in the 70s than there are today in the modeling world. And what I tell models, if you want to do it, do it. One of the requirements for modeling is a slim figure. But now we have plus size models, and my daughter went on to be the number 10 plus size model in the world. So we do have options now that we didn't have before.
And she uses her voice to speak out.
And it's absolutely wonderful to be able to support other women regarding sexual assault, sexual harassment. The highest point in my career would have to be that American Vogue cover. And then having a really kind of horrific divorce and losing custody of my daughter. My life has had a lot of ups and downs.
So much success in home is always on her mind.
Buffalo is a wonderful place to grow up. It's a wonderful place to raise a family, good family values. I was very blessed to have an amazing mother and father and my sisters and brothers. My best friend got an opportunity to teach at Bennett High School, and she's doing probably what I would have done, teach physical education if I hadn't become a lawyer or a model. I still have nieces and nephews that are in Buffalo. Henri Muhammad, who is a concert violinist. I tell Dada, that's my best girlfriend in the world, Yvonne Bratton, we call her Dada, that I would want in Buffalo is a school named after me.
Auntie, mom, grandma, and still a 68-year-old beauty.
For all of those, little Black girls that have dreams that, yes, you can make it too.
It was quite an honor to speak with Beverly Johnson. What an honor. And hopefully her dream of having something named after her in Buffalo will actually come true.
Yeah, all I got to say is girl power.
Absolutely. We love it. Keep rocking, women.
That's right. And you keep joining us for commUNITY. We'll see you next month right here on Channel 2.